That's where frames come. So the second level, once we understand what narratives are, then let's talk about frames. Every time that we start talking about an issue and with a narrative with an issue, we need to think about which words and which mental concepts we can trigger in our audience to make them feel closer or at least be more predisposed to agree with us. For example, there are really, really important frames. The main one is a frame. If you frame something as freedom versus tyranny, right? You're from the United States, you know the importance of liberty. Even the Democrats, the main message in their campaigns is freedom. So there is a competing battle of framing in US politics around freedom. What is freedom? The freedom represented by Donald Trump or the freedom represented by the Democratic Party? And how you define freedom versus tyranny is really important, right? How you frame it. For migration, is a key frame, which is, do you want to have control versus chaos? How can you bring people closer to a frame that values control over chaos? It's really difficult. Why? Because especially the status quo, the establishment, politicians, and the main idea that have built the society that we have today, for some reason, and we will look at different polls, have lost the credibility that they can keep order. And there is like this spread idea that the current world in which we live and the current society is chaotic. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
So that's a frame. If you wanna, as a progressive, pro-European, you wanna try to enter that frame, it's very difficult that you're gonna win because you're not credible. And let's face it, we are credible on some things, we are less credible on others. On that, right now, amongst the people whose vote matters, we are not as credible as we should be. So this idea of control versus chaos, we're going to struggle convincing. So we need another frame. We need another frame.
Which is the benefits of migration, maybe.
Exactly.
Instead of looking at whether we have migration under control when already there's such a strong frame there from one side that things are out of control, things are chaotic, integration is not working, etc. Instead of trying to tackle that and say, no, you're just wrong, or you're just racist, or you just hate immigrants, which is not actually answering to any people's concerns or any other questions. Instead, maybe we should look at, okay, but what are the benefits of migration, create a frame around that, and say, actually, migration is going to be needed for society and for the future and social security, etc.
In other words, jobs,
Yeah.
growth,
Yeah.
paying pensions, right? So if you start a conversation about migration with your crazy angle and you say that, John, when you started working, there was one person retired and 4 people working to pay for that pension retirement. Right now, that balance is 2 people working for every person who is retired. And once the baby boomers retire in full, and by the time that I am going to retire, there's going to be 1 person working for every person that is retired.
Yeah.
Unless we don't do something, right? So first, we have now put our audience in a frame of urgency about the inability to sustain public pensions, for example.
Yeah.
And now the people in our audience are thinking, oh my God, what are we going to do, right? Of course, at this point is where we are starting to win, we progressive and pro-Europeans, because we actually have thought this through. We actually have policies that are reasonable for people. But you cannot pitch those policies when the frame of the narrative is being framed as order versus chaos, because we are not credible. But now we can talk about, look, we are going to do this, and that in order to increase fertility rates amongst our own citizens. But this is going to take a while, because the reason why women don't have as many kids as they used before are not only because economic reasons, which are important, but it's also cultural, right? I remember my father was the oldest of 7 brothers and sisters, and he always said to me, I couldn't go to university because my parents, if I went to university, my parents would have needed to pay for the university for the rest of them. So I chose, he said, to give you to only have two. I have one older sister, so that I can give you everything to both of you, and I can spend more time with both of you. But of course, that doesn't mean that there are no challenges about work-life balance, etc. But we can say those are our proposals, but they are going to take time to yield results. In the meantime, what do we need? The M word.
Yeah.
Exactly. Does that mean that everyone should commit? Absolutely not. What we need and what we know that people really value are a sense of having control over who is coming, making sure that everyone who comes is ready to contribute, to work, to pay their fair share in taxes, to start their own business, to participate in our culture, to be respectful of that culture, and ultimately contribute to our social fabric. So there you go. We have one frame around jobs, around sustainability of public pensions, which especially for older people, trust me, they think about this more than we do. And we already are credible because we actually have solutions for the demographic challenge. And then we say migration is going to help us get there with control.
Yep.
Right? Now we change the conversation. Now your uncle, who is crazy and maybe had a few more beers than he should have, will start saying, oh, but you want to do, you always say this, or actually you want to bring more migrants. And already the uncle is going to try to justify. But the people around the table listening to you already are thinking, am I going to get a public pension that I am paying for? And should I be looking for solutions? This guy seems to have this problem, this challenge figured out. I'm going to give you a second chance.
Yeah.
And that's what we need. We need a chance for these people to hear what we have to say.
Yeah, because that's the thing. The persuadables are not going to be your crazy racist uncle who's already on the far end of the scale. Our persuadables are going to be those in the middle who have some decent, valid concerns that you can then answer to those, and we can still have very humane conversations around those topics that are based in very practical solutions to today's problems.